Hey, successful wives. Welcome to TSW Network, where we elevate wives globally to thrive in marriage, business, and in life. I'm your host, DC Constant. And in recognition of Men's Mental Health Month, TSW presents the series Brother Breathe, a powerful conversation series honoring the voices of today's Black men. Today, we have Samer Mustafa, who's a mental health worker and has been in the field for over 3 years. Joining us today. Hey, Sammer, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. I am so glad you are able to join us today. And so let's just jump right in, Sammer. So, for those of you, I want you guys to know that Sammer, he's Muslim. And so I had some questions for you because I didn't know if Muslim men like kind of went through what in terms of mental health that maybe culturally, and I'm saying culturally, that Black men do. So my question to you, Sammer, is um a bit give us a little bit about your background and upbringing. So, for instance, how does your culture or religion expectations impact your mental health or emotional well being? Like, did you grow up in an environment where mental health was open, big hugs, yay, express yourself, or no?
It's like a mixed bag. You never knew as a child anything outside of the home because it's really, I don't want to say it's every parent was strict, but in our family in particular, we were left inside a lot, to be with our mother, to hang around our mother, hang around our father. The boys get a little bit of freedom, by going to work with dad if dad owned their own place. And I spent a lot of time with my father and a lot of love. So I know I got a lot of love.
Okay.
Uh, and I guess maybe the world's problems never affected us as it would maybe with some other families, just based on the way that they would raise us. So we always thought, well, if we're happy, that means we're good, right? And when we
Right.
went to school and we acted out, it was more of your son or daughter has a lack of discipline rather than they have like some sort of mental health issue or ADHD or something like that. So we attribute it to bad parenting
Right.
in some ways. Um, but I never, as a child, for a certain amount of time, I never felt like there was anything wrong with the world. And so I felt, genuinely happy. I had everything I wanted, anything I needed. And I hung out with my dad almost every single day. So like, I can't say that I guess maybe the mental health is in how you're raised.
Okay.
If nothing is going around, nothing's going on, nothing seems awry, then everything is okay. But as you get older, things start to change. We start developing opinions, conflicts, and interpersonal conflicts in the house, and you start seeing the world. I think my biggest first shock was realizing that not everyone was Muslim growing up. That was a big shock, and
Okay.
and those two garbage men, just two garbage men in the neighborhood. They weren't, but we treated them as we would anybody else. But then I realized, wow, there's so many different people out there, and people have these problems. To start to see the problems, and um, so we never focus on ourselves, but kind of observe the world around us, which is what Islam really is. It's an observation of the world,
Mhm.
and so we form our opinions based on what we saw, and so
Okay.
maybe everyone else had a problem and we were okay.
Okay. Okay. So how does mental health and masculinity, how was that in your home? Like how did your dad, because it sounded like you had an excellent relationship with your dad. So what did he teach you about masculinity versus all these different things that we're seeing today in terms of masculinity?
Um,
The media.
all of our It's a great question because all of our teachings come from the Quran, right? People follow Sharia law, which is not technically, it's really not part of the Quran, is derived from it. So, or the hadiths. So we look to it. Men are it comes to masculinity, men and women are equal, in a lot of ways. But the one thing that it states is men have a higher responsibility, for that, so that masculinity, I think, got confused, and turned into something toxic
Yeah.
where men seem to control things in a tyrannical way rather than, in a collaborative way with their wife. My father certainly struggled with that as a young man. When he was my age, he was a millionaire, and I say that as like a precautionary tale to what was to come with him later on in life. And he really saw that his way of doing things, his masculinity, it brought everything down. The cockiness, the not realizing what he was doing was his mental health was declining because he thought he can get away with things, and it just didn't work out that way. So I definitely saw a sharp decline in that, and the masculinity to me wasn't so much about being supportive, right? In masculinity, we want to be supportive, we want to be uplifting and strong and lead from the front. Instead, it turned to no father in the household because he went to prison for some tax evasion. But again, this is where the cockiness came in. This is where the toxicity is in. Arguing with my mother, over whatever was going on, and again, the world starts to open itself up, and then you find out there's a lot of things that are not true.
Yeah. So how did that shape you emotionally in life? Just growing up, becoming a man, how did that shape your life and your thought process and way of thinking?
When my dad came home from prison, what I realized was he wasn't the same person anymore. He was a lot more devout to his faith. Um, but I definitely saw the change, and that to me shifted the relationship from, father and son to, again, a conflict between a father and a son. So it wasn't as harmonious as it used to be. So it started, you would get angry because you didn't have everything that you had before, right? Not for nothing, spoiled child.
Mhm.
Not because who doesn't want to spoil their kid, but when you lose everything, it started to make me feel like, well, we're poor, and because we were poor, this state of mind, the state of being, uh, would make you feel less than what you really are, less confident. You would go about your day, just hoping toothpaste was in the cupboard. Uh,
Mhm.
it was a drastic change, and it definitely hurt. And it was, but you're so focused on being poor, financially broke, that you don't realize my misbehaving, the acting out. You don't realize that it's where it's coming from. You just know that it's happening. And that to me is what, when I look back on it, that's what I look back on and go, wow, I see like a really dramatic shift from being genuinely happy to being concerned about food and toothpaste. And I mean, quite literally, not having toothpaste.
Were
It
you able were you able to share those feelings, or did you feel because you were a young man, a boy, that you could not express that emotionally to anyone, be it your mom, or during that time, were you able to talk to a coach or a teacher or someone to express yourself emotionally?
It was embarrassing for the family. So we were told to stay quiet. We don't talk about this outside of the house. And when we're in the house, we don't even talk about it unless we have to. I did not have anyone to talk with. So I would try making connections with, when I started playing football, I would try to make connections with coaches, some of the staff at the school that I was in, just to have, I don't know if it's a sense of normalcy, but just someone that could hear out, what a kid has to say, and maybe they could pick up on, you know, instead of me asking directly, asking indirectly, like, I'd like to talk about something, but I don't know how to say it to you because when you ring alarms at school, it we don't need, like, I don't need my mom having more problems, right? So you have
Mhm.
to bottle a lot of things up, and without a proper again, without a proper way to channel that, it turns into, you know, a lot of naughty behavior. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
sneaking out of the house, doing a bunch of, luckily for me, I had enough sense for my, parents that I gained, no drugs, nothing like that, but, curfew, some graffiti here and there, but, definitely acting out because there are other people that were just like you,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, where they wanted to express themselves around people who could understand them. And it was almost like we could hang out without having to talk about our problems, and we felt good about it. So that's how that's how I think I ended up in some different cliques, just because we were able to express ourselves, but not have to overly share. Like, we know you have a problem. I know you have a problem. Let's go hang out. Let's go grab a cheeseburger. Let's go ride our bikes through the woods and just kind of talk. And, we just genuinely would feel like we found people that we can connect with without having to say much. And I think that's how guys are. Maybe not all the
Mm-hmm.
time. I'm 31 years old. And I think that was really important at the time as a kid, in the early 2000s, that we could talk without actually having to talk about our problems.
So you work with young men now. You work with young people now. How important is it? Because you can probably see some of yourself in some of these kids, but how important is it now, especially for boys, to be able to help them process their emotions? Because society, from the time y'all come out the womb, I don't care what race or background, young boys are taught boys don't cry, keep your emotions in. And then you grow up, you become men, and then you get married, and then women are like, why won't you talk to me, share your feelings? Well, you've been telling them since they came out the womb to shut up, and you don't care how they feel, to be quiet. So that doesn't go away when you guys become men. So, how do you help them process their emotions and regulate their emotions, and to let them know it's okay to do that? To
Uh,
take away that stigma, take away the stigma.
I have this one young man, and I can't speak on every detail of him for obvious reasons, but he is a fantastic example of him leaning onto his mom for support, and I encourage it. So what I share with them is lean on the people that are there for you. And when you need to express something, you can be frustrated. I
Mhm.
think I had my uncle explain to me many years ago when I got really mad and I broke this bottle outside on the side. I mean, I was furious. I was having an interpersonal issue with my brother, younger brother. Again, dominance is a big thing with guys. And my uncle said something very profound to me. He goes, I understand that you were upset, but you weren't upset with me. So that's why I'm not going to whoop you.
Mhm.
So I took that as I need to find a way to express my frustration and not break things. Because when you break things, then you're just adding another level of problems. And so to this kid that I work with, I said, punching things, breaking things, I said, you want to ask yourself, do you really want to subject your body to this level of frustration and end up in a worse spot? Or do you want to talk about your problems? And now that you have this ability, you have this safe space, right? Safe spaces are this, right, negative connotation. There's a stigma to it. But in all honesty, safe space is a great place to be kind of belligerent when you want to express yourself because you're not being.
Yeah, to get it out,
Yeah.
in
And
a
once,
healthy way. Yeah,
mhm.
you
and
want to be
once you
frustrated. Yeah,
and once you learn to get it out, I said, so I let the kid, I said, say what you want to say. And then afterwards, we're going to work on how you could express that when you need help. And so someone doesn't look at you as if you're, like a mental patient. And,
yeah,
and the next thing you know, I mean, the mom calls me and says, my son's a lot different, in the way that he handles things. And it's only been a couple of short weeks. I said, well, that's great. I'm glad to see that and I'm glad to hear that he's doing better. I said, the real challenge will come when the next problem comes, and how he handles it from there. So it's about steps. You got to take steps. Nothing is done in a day.
yeah.
Uh, and so with these kids, Every once in a while I get one that's under the age of 18. Now the older ones that don't have that same luxury, that are that you have to speak to them, because you can't speak to them like they're a child, because they're adults, and some of them are a couple years younger than me. And so the real thing there is, let's find that one thing that we can connect on, whether it be a sports team, whether it be some type of activity like cooking, or artistry, something. And then you work on it from there, and you go, all right, well, I said, I see that you channel your frustration into this, and you're really great at it. you know like, that's amazing. You've learned some things along the way. And so the challenges I faced with them is not so much maybe how they process it, but the education behind it. So not finishing high school, not having that network of support that's behind them. So they sort of, how men are. Once they leave after 19 years old, they lose that sense of structure that they got from school, being on a sports team, and they kind of act out the way they want to act out. So when you get back to these guys that are 25, 26 years old that you work with, you have to figure out what structure do they actually have around them, if they do have any, and work from there. And once you find out they have a structure, like they have a girlfriend, and that girlfriend has a nice mom, or they still work with their parents, you know, we tell them, hey, talk with them. You're an adult now. Talk to your parents like an adult. Don't be
Mm,
disrespectful, but talk to them like an adult. When you have a problem, talk with them. Your parents aren't going to stop being a parent. That doesn't change.
true. It doesn't.
And I have one guy who I absolutely love. Like, I love this kid. I don't want to say, he's a young man. He's just got married. I'm so happy for him. And he went from house to house to house, living in a car, whatever it was. And now he's got a nice apartment. He's got a beautiful wife, and he's moving forward in his career. And it's like, and he said, really, he goes, it all started when someone was there to tell me that I'm not saying he was a little slow or behind things, but when someone started giving him a little bit of an education, and
Yeah.
not just education, academically, but just some things in life that you weren't taught, that you didn't get to develop because you were so focused on whatever else it was. um so it's difficult sometimes, but the reward, the payoff is great, for
Yeah.
them. And as we know, we hang up our phones and we put it away, and then we hope that, when we text them before their appointment, that we're working to continue building on whatever issue that they had the week before or the weeks prior.
No, that's good. And so that's changing the narrative. It is. It's changing the narrative where they have a safe space. Because when we were coming up, I never heard of safe space. So safe space at all. So you're changing the narrative, and that's great. So in your community, in your Muslim community, has the stigma of mental health or getting help or seeking therapy, has that changed from when you were younger, and when you had to keep things in the home and don't speak out? I think that's universal. I don't even think that's a religious thing, because I think because I was told that too. What goes on his house stays in his house. So,
Mm.
but also that kills people too. Mentally, that all that is related to mental health, because you get sick holding on to secrets, holding on to trauma. Is like it's going to manifest itself somewhere, and usually it's through sickness or up here. So, and in your religion, have you seen that changed over the years in terms of being of it of on a bigger scale, that they're more open to the mental health piece, be it therapy or anything of that nature?
This is going to be controversial. So if anybody in the comments, has something to say about it, please be respectful. Islam, as it's beautiful. I love it, and everything else in between. Uh, to the rest of the Western audience, it really is archaic, and you could feel that way about it, because we do hold on to the Old Testament teachings on top of whatever's in the Quran. So we have this rigidity that is good, because it provides us a stable structure in which to base our morals and values from. Uh, Mental health, I think, in a way, is it's almost separate from it, right? Because we believe in doing things that are good for your soul and good for your body. It's just that what's been good for your soul and good for your body, what those things are, have changed over the years. So
Okay.
before it used to be, back in the days, read the Bible, read the Torah, your answers are all here in this book. Go read it, right? And for a lot of things, it's true. It's an amazing how the people from the thousands of years ago much smarter than anyone will ever give them credit for. They really did know what they were talking about. But when we find out there's more complete, but no one could imagine that we'd be sitting here on the camera talking to each other, right? No one can imagine this interconnected world that we have from with technology and what
Mhm.
that brings, right? And so with religion, what it fails to do, and the one thing that fails to do, it failed maybe to see the how the world would change through a different media, that being again technology. And what we see is, um, we see how some places still are the same. Like I can go to Patterson, New Jersey, and I feel like I'm stuck in 1980. It's just
Oh.
nothing's changed about it, right? And so it's like when it comes to our mental health, we have to think about, well, what have we done to change how we view mental health when the places that we were in haven't gone with the times?
Mm.
And so for me, that's a big thing. With my degree being in the urban field, urban studies, I look at things from a perspective of where people live and how that affects how they view things. If nothing has moved along, then nothing has changed. People still view, they might go, "Oh, mental health is a thing now, very good," right? But they'll only understand it on the surface level. It's like trying to
Mm.
talk to somebody about politics, right? They understand it for what it is on the surface, but don't understand the complexities of it, because not because they're dumb, but because they're in a place where maybe that isn't allowed to, the expression of thought isn't allowed past a certain point. Like, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way we like to keep it. uh
Okay.
but in Cleveland, I'm seeing, definitely have had my Arab patients, well, clients, excuse me, not a doctor, I want to be respectful. And I've had a few. I still have one, and I love the kid absolutely. And his father actually passed away recently, and it was unexpected. A younger guy, and we spent the last 3 years working on his relationship with his father. And
Mm.
for me personally, since I don't have my father anymore, I said the hardest thing you could ever do, I said, is admit that your father, for all of his faults, is still the person who was guiding you, because he knew, well, my father knew everything I would do. He may not know which foot I would lead with, but he'd know where those feet would take me. And so I would say this kid, he loved his father, and he got to enjoy the last couple of months where he really got along with his dad. So for me, that's very gratifying. And that more than professionally, personally. Um, I feel like you have a good hand in it. So I feel like mental health has changed because I'm allowing, in my mind, to open up to new things. So if I could open up to, and I could pass along that openness to another person, he could pass it along. It doesn't start, you know, it doesn't start unless someone starts it, right? If
Right.
people want to, be open to mental health in their communities, they have to be open to it. They have to be open to big feelings, hard feelings, and they have to understand where these feelings are coming from, and not just your parents are right, so you can't question them. No, no, no.
Yeah.
Our religion says you can question your parents, but you got to do it respectfully.
Yeah. Respectfully.
So with mental health, you have to approach it respectfully as well. You can't just say, "Oh, you have a mental health problem, you need to get some help." You need to know, "Hey, I see that things are changing, and you're not sleeping right. You're not eating. Are you okay?" Right? And you have to. It's step by step. It's just a step by step thing. And when
Yeah.
you introduce it that way into bite sized pieces, I think
Yes.
it opens the door to religions in general. people who are religious to accept mental health as part of taking care of your soul,
Mhm.
and another way to, I guess, get closer to your God.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, what would you tell? So I know you work with the young people. What
Hmm.
would you tell young men out there today that may be battling with some things? They haven't seen a counselor, they haven't talked to anyone. They're listening to you, they got some stuff going on, but they may feel hopeless. What would you speak to them? What would you say to them as
Uh,
a man? Just as a man.
it, that's a that's deep. That one's that's difficult, right? Every person is their own,
Yeah.
so to how you approach them is important. The generic answer is you have a problem, you need to go talk about it. Um, how you tell them is so important. But I try with even young kids I meet across like outside. I'm like at Walmart or something, and they're like misbehaving or like I caught this one kid stealing at Walmart. It was pretty funny. I told him, I whipped my eye at him. I told him go stand with your mom and put that down. This kid, and he listened, and thinking, all right, so I know there's some problems at home immediately when you see that sort of behavior, but you're not going to demonize him for it. So the first thing is don't demonize or villainize the behaviors that these kids are having. So especially with young men, we could be destructive. When we see you doing something dumb, don't don't try to villainize it. Don't try to say I don't. My level of disappointment with my father when he caught me, I was graffitiing. Oh my, you would have thought I broke every rule in the book. No, I just broke a couple of city laws. Not a big deal. Got a power washer. We'll take care of that. And lucky for me, the officer who actually had to handle me, he said, "I'm not reporting this. I'm just going to trust you to fix your problem." So that to me was a really big step in understanding that I'm out of control, but someone's giving me a chance to be in control. So give
Mm,
a chance to be in control of their problems. So if
okay.
they got a friend that's not doing so hot, is doing bad decisions and he's dragging someone else with him, hey, ask yourself, tell your friend, hey, I got to step away from you. You know, I'm not gonna leave and not gonna talk to you anymore. But when you go out and decide to do something, I'm gonna stay home, right? So you can kind of see the natural consequences of your actions, which
Yeah.
are, um, someone might not talk to you, right? And that's a natural consequence of bad behavior. If you just take away things, the thing about taking away things is that you can go get those things back. Take away a
Mm,
PlayStation. When I turn 18 or when I get a job, I'll just buy another one. What are you really teaching me? If you take away, uh, that bond that you really want, you're like, whoa, I don't want to lose my friends over, acting out, right? And that's what I think I would tell kids is find things that are, find a way to take control of the situation, and then take responsibility for it. So if you do get caught graffitiing, guys, don't do it. Number one, it's a disclaimer: do not do it. You will be charged. I got lucky, but you will be charged.
mhm,
Um, take control of your situation. That's one of the big pieces of advice I would give them. And when they don't know how to take control of it, then talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about the details. Okay, whatever those details may be.
mhm. Yeah. No, good. Thank you for that. And as we wrap up, what, Samer, what does your legacy look like?
Hopefully one with plenty of jokes and smiles and hopefully, just a family that loves me. I mean, to we come from and then we return to, right? To the same
Yeah.
make. So
Yeah.
I think if anything, what life has taught me is, and mental health has taught me is humble yourself to whatever it is that is really controlling the world. All the politics and all that nonsense, that'll always be there. But once your life is over, it's over. Everything that I think one of my favorite things that I've heard from two different sheikhs, our version of a pastor. The one that did a funeral recently for us, and another one that's pretty famous, Mufti. They both said two interesting things. The one guy said, um, everyone who came to this, who's buried here, had something to do that day that they died. They had to go get milk. They had to go to a doctor's appointment. Had to go see their friends. But remember, this is where you come back to. So think about all the things you're doing in your life,
Mhm.
and take care of whatever it is that you need to do to be healthy, be happy, and don't take it for granted. Right, your mental health is not to be taken for granted. And what Mufti said, which is one of the greatest thing, one of, I don't know if it's profound or if it's just one of those things that you never think about. And so they're at a gravesite and they're looking at it, and the thing says, 18 something to 1880 something.
Mhm.
And Mufti goes and says, wow, this man lived 80 something years. What a beautiful life. He has been dead longer than he's been alive. And that is a very profound thing to say. So when you go back and look at your life, you want people to go and say, wow, good person. He lived that long, or she lived that long because they were a good person. They took care of themselves. They took care of others. So hopefully that's really what people, like I said, I just want to be loved. That's it. I don't want anything else. I want to be loved, and I want to just rest in peace. I don't really have um, uh, as boisterous and as fun as I could be, and and all that. I just want people to know, just be a good person, just
Yeah.
being a good person. Who cares about everything else? Everything else doesn't. Everything else comes with what you put into your life. Whether it's the home run leader in baseball, or the person who solves world hunger. You know,
Yeah.
people remember you as a good person. They'll know that first, and everything else comes second.
I agree. And you know what? Us wanting to be loved, that's universal. That's universal. Everybody wants to be loved. I
Yeah.
don't care if you're the meanest person in the world. Everybody wants to be loved because that's how the creator created us, because he's love. So
Can I throw in a joke from Norm Macdonald? I don't know if this is going to be good or not. If you remember Norm, uh, if you remember, Hitler had a dog that loved him.
he did? No. Like, Hitler had a dog? No.
You could cut that one out, but that was just for you and me, if you want.
Oh, but thank you so much. And we appreciate having you. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. So
Mhm.
thank you so much. Until the next time, guys, just drop in the comments, share your thoughts with us. And remember, wives, you define your own success. Until next time, God bless
God bless.
you.